That's when both men noticed a disheveled figure in front of them. "Look at this fucking bum," Miles said, pointing at the dark-skinned man wandering slowly from the edge of the parking lot. The man heading toward them had no pants on and shambled straight into oncoming traffic. It was like he was enjoying the same drug-induced haze Miles and Chris were. The jaywalker forced a van to a screeching halt, and the driver, a scraggly-looking man in paint-covered overalls, wasted no time exiting his vehicle. "Hey, Porky Pig, what do you think you're doing?" he asked, and followed with a string of obscenities that was both colorful and physically impossible. But then he took a few steps back when he noticed the man's arm was bent and horribly broken with bright bones jutting out in 3 places. "Whoa, are you okay?" But he was far from okay. The injured man, a used car salesman named Vidu in his former life, dashed several paces before launching himself into the air, grabbing the driver with his one good arm. The two tumbled to the pavement as Miles and Chris, once again against their better judgment, headed over to intervene. They weren't prepared for what came next. They had expected to see at least some punching, screaming, and grappling, but seconds later they found only a little movement and even less noise. There was, however, lots of blood. "Fuck me," Miles said, and tugged Chris towards the zoo entrance. The dark-skinned man gorged on the painter's throat as if he hadn't eaten in years, chewing and swallowing quickly but deliberately, like a competitive eater at a Nathan's hot dog eating contest, but Joey Jaws Chestnut had nothing on the ravenous Sri Lankan. At this point, several other men got out of the paint van and tried to save their compatriot by throwing random objects at the attacker. Vito ignored the projectiles until one man blasted him in the head with a full-gallon paint can. The heavy blow did little but grab his attention, and he stood up to give chase, and the man whose throat he'd just been eating did the same, savagely pinning one of his former co-workers against the van before ripping into him. The other painters decided discretion was the better part of valor and took off running as well. By this time, traffic had backed up and horns were honking. Little did the drivers know what horrors were happening several yards away. Because they were laying on their horns in typical Chicagoan fashion, they would soon find out. Running as fast as they could, the two teens soon made their way to the front turnstiles and waved down a security guard as the chaos behind them intensified. One assailant became 2, which became 4, which became 8. Even worse, another crowd came running from further inside the city, the remnants of a 5K race gone bad, and they too brought death on the fly. "Close the gates, man! Pull 'em shut!" Chris said while pointing wildly at the scene. The security guard, a police reject named Paul, scoffed at the two well-known miscreants. Then he saw what they were pointing at. "What the frick?" He tilted his head forward as if that could make him see further away. "It's a riot," Miles said. "Looters, murderers, rapists, probably some jaywalkers. Just shut the damn gate." The throng drew closer, and Paul witnessed a woman get dragged to the ground and attacked with gusto, her insides ripped out like colorful scarves pulled from a magician's sleeve. Paul grabbed his walkie in a panic. "Mark, you need to close the south gate. There's something going on in the parking lot, like bad." He looked at several women in the ticket kiosks. "Everybody come inside. We're closing up shop." The women ran in as Chris and Miles helped the guard roll a tall steel gate from one side of the entrance to the other. It was almost shut when Chris saw a man pushing a baby stroller towards them with the madman that started it all close behind. "Hold up, you gotta let this guy in." The guard paused, saw the situation, and kept pushing the gate. "No can do." Chris held tight and dug his heels in. The gate stopped. "Come on!" he yelled as the father, a hipster with a terrified look on his face, closed within yards. Paul pushed harder, and the gate began moving again. It was about to shut when Miles took hold as well, slowing its momentum enough for the father to skid in at the last second. And so did the creature. It came at the security guard, who promptly drew his taser and fired, landing a direct hit to the guy's naked groin area. The darts dug in deep, and 50,000 volts sent a shockwave through Vidu's body. The infected Sri Lankan crumpled to the ground and involuntarily shook for a moment. And then he was right back up. Paul backpedaled as he fumbled with a can of pepper spray before raising it to eye level, unleashing a noxious blast. "Suck on that!" Not only did the creature not suck on that, but it didn't even flinch. Instead, it snatched the security guard's outstretched hand and chomped down hard, crunching through bone and sinew with ease. Paul pulled back, but the monster held fast and ignored repeated blows from his free.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.